This is our first part of our 4-part series on narcissism. As always, nothing is diagnostic, it's general advice only. Dr. Dom, take it away.
So today we're going to be talking about narcissistic traits as versus a diagnostic or diagnosable condition, which we would be looking at as being narcissistic personality disorder or narcissism. And we need to be talking about, first of all, what traits are. And this is where a person exhibits the behaviours and that cluster of behaviours that we consider to be narcissistic, but they're not there all the time. Often they'll be there in particular circumstances. They're not pervasive. They're not a really innate part of the way that they relate. This is really important because human traits are common and not automatically pathological. With narcissism, it's actually a normal human trait from the point of view of it kicks in about 8, and
which is crazy.
I think most people who have an 8-year-old will be seeing that very little self-centered grandiosity coming in. It increases up until adolescence, where in adolescence it's actually a really important part of what allows healthy self-esteem capacity to separate out as an individual, but then it's meant to decrease in adulthood. And if we have a look to the other reason that we want to be talking about narcissistic traits, being able to tell between traits and a diagnosis, is that if we put everyone in the same basket, there's a couple of really big problems with that. The first one is about how it makes us feel. So if you just imagine and you kind of say to yourself, how does it feel to feel like I've been harmed by a narcissist? It's immediately got that really intense reaction to it. Versus when you say, how do I feel when somebody's behaved in a way during an interaction that had a narcissistic flavour to it? It becomes something you can deal with in a different way.
Otherwise, you're doubling down on the pain.
Absolutely. This is about how you feel with it. It's not about the other person, it's how it impacts on you. The other thing is, if we're labelling everybody as being having a narcissistic personality disorder or having narcissism, then it actually decreases our capacity to pick the ones that we really do need to be watching out for. It dilutes that gut feeling that we need to be listening to.
Because there are people that we do need to be watching out for. There are people that are a threat. So we need to learn to separate between the traits that exist and someone who is a malignant narcissist, someone who is exhibiting coercive control, someone who has a conscious element to their behavior and the way they're treating the other person.
That's a really good way to be thinking about the differences. Does the person have insight? Is it actually a conscious act to manipulate and harm the other person? So let's have a look. Narcissistic traits, they exist, and human traits exist on a spectrum, but particularly ones like the narcissistic traits, we're going to see them coming through when people are under stress, threat, or feeling insecure. And particularly with the narcissistic traits, you will see people have got underlying low self-esteem. You will see if they have, and we call it a narcissistic insult, then you will see those traits come right up as their way of defending against that. In that, we all have coping mechanisms. We all have ways of coping when we're stressed, some of them less helpful than others. And the thing about the narcissistic traits is that they have much greater impact on the other person involved. There's a lot more distress associated with the person who's on the receiving end than the person who actually has the narcissistic traits.
So one of the ways that we wanted to talk about with when people respond to a criticism, a narcissist will generally, they will be superior. If they feel criticized or insecure, they will be the best in the room, the most grand, they'll show the grandiosity, whereas other people might one down themselves, go into an inferiority spiral. A narcissist will think that they are the smartest person on earth, but putting others down to feel okay about yourself is never okay. So I'm inadequate, but they are more inadequate, so I'm okay. No.
Not okay. Not helpful.
Not acceptable.
Not helpful for the person who's being put down. Not helpful for the person who's using that as a way to make themselves feel okay.
Bad.
Talk about this as being the power up, power down aspect to the dynamic. Whenever it's present, it is always using the other person to meet a person's emotional needs. And depending on how you look at the abuse, that is look at the definition, that is always abuse. If you are using another person to meet your own emotional needs at their
Expense,
it is abuse. but like we were saying, we do want to go through having narcissistic traits doesn't mean that you have a narcissistic personality disorder or that you're dealing with somebody with a narcissistic personality disorder. We're going to go on in the second video to talk about what that actually looks like and where it fits into that. But let's have a talk about the core traits that do appear as part of that narcissistic picture.
So I'm going to start with what I referenced before, which is grandiosity. So it's the heightened sense of importance or uniqueness. So this can look like confidence early on, but what it really does is lead other people to feel insecure, to feel unseen. So it's normal for people to have confidence. It's healthy. In fact, it's actually normal to know that you have a superior skill, but it doesn't need to take away from others. It doesn't make you better than anyone else. You might be really good at one thing and that's great, but it doesn't put other people down. Whereas the narcissistic trait means that they view the other person as lesser than them.
And that's where they're getting their sense of feeling okay about
So that's trait one, grandiosity.
Next one, that need for admiration and validation. And again, anything when we're looking at any of these traits, it's very easy to kind of go, but I do that. Well, these are all things that we do as humans, but it's the intensity at which it's done and the level of reliance on that external validation. At the moment, we want to be real about how socially disconnected things are at the moment. We're all feeling that need for that external validation. But this is on a whole different level. And it will definitely, you'll feel it when you're relating to a person with narcissistic traits on show, because it's going to be really emotionally draining. You are going to feel like their validation is coming at your expense. And it can feel very one-sided relating to people with these traits.
Now, sensitivity to criticism. We've referenced this briefly, but for a narcissistic trait, criticism feels deeply threatening rather than informing. If you have a narcissistic trait, you will respond to this with defensiveness and anger.
They will go into fight mode very quickly.
Blame. So there is no such thing as constructive criticism for a narcissistic trait, because it will become your problem, they will be angry, or they will go grandiose again.
Not going to be learning anything from the feedback.
No, they're not taking feedback. So 4, entitlement, Dom.
That one, you did that one.
Entitlement's me.
Yeah.
They expect special treatment. The impact of expecting special treatment everywhere you go is that you're going to have a lot of conflict. Workplaces, families, friendships. No one's entitled to special treatment everywhere they go.
And the last one, very much part of the core and part of what can cause a lot of stress in relating to somebody with narcissistic traits is empathy difficulties. This is the capacity to be aware of what the other person's feeling. Now, within the narcissistic kind of traits, one of the things about this is that they're often selective, and it relates in, if a person's in a grandiose, got that inflated self-esteem, they are taking up all the space. They literally don't have any space in their mind to consider what another person's feeling. It's not absent, they are capable of empathy, it's just that in that grandiose state, there's no room for it. What's the impact? You're not going to feel heard by them, you're not going to feel like your emotions are being taken into consideration.
No. Do you want to jump ahead, Dom, and do the important reframing since we're running out of time?
So, look, one of the key things we're wanting to look at here, very clearly you're wanting to kind of have boundaries relating to narcissistic behaviours, but we also don't want to be judging the individual in a way. We're not wanting to be demonising. Absolutely, boundaries about the behaviour. And being aware and protecting yourself from how they impact on, but not labelling people as having moral failings, recognising that they are a protective strategy for that person, and understanding when we're having a look at why do these traits develop people often, and again, very general, these are things that may or may not be present, early attachment disruptions, where a person hasn't ever developed that secure sense of self and belonging, inconsistency in caregiving, where their emotions were never validated when they were growing up, they're constantly seeking that, very much where worth was conditional.
And we do understand that it's hard to extend empathy to people that may have hurt you, but we really do want to not be thinking about just me, but about us, we as a society. So for this to be the goal of bettering everybody,
it's an and. It's a recognising, it's promoting to the behaviours, it's acknowledging the behaviours are not okay, and hopefully being able to,
And here's where
a
they
gentle
come from.
understanding of why it might be.
So that's the end of part one.
Okay, next time around, we will be going much more into the narcissistic personality disorders, where we're dealing with a big leap up.
And we'll be going into the DS next. But that's the end of part one, and we'll see you in part two.
Bye.